Hare Krishna Mataji. Pranams, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining in and giving your precious time.
Hare Krishna
As
Mataji,
always.
thank you so much again for giving me the opportunity to do this service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 3, Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is further inquiries by Vidura, and the text for today is text 14. So over to you, Mataji. Let us know if you want us to do anything.
Yes, Mataji, would you like to do the Mangalacharan or would you want me to do it?
Sure, I can do the Mangalacharan.
Okay,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मायं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासाहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखावितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna.
Hare
Over to
Krishna,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji, for doing the Mangalacharan so beautifully. Once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity to do the service. I start my service by paying my obeisances to my Guruji. Without his mercy, I wouldn't have been able to do the service. I seek and my prayers to Radharani and Krishna and all his devotees, and to all of you. I seek your blessings and mercy so that I'm able to do the service. Well, and if there are any mistakes, please do correct me. So, as Mataji has mentioned, we are doing Canto 3, Chapter 7, and verse number 14. So I will read the verse. This is the canto. We've been reading about the questions that Vidura has been asking Maitreya Muni, and Maitreya Muni is giving answers to Vidura. Now, we've seen how, we've seen the context. We've talked about the context last week. I mentioned a bit from, because I was hearing a katha by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, and he was talking about, the implementation and what can we take away from that. And we realized how, how we've seen how Krishna left this material world, and then we see how Vidura had the conversation with Uddhava, and then he wanted further knowledge from Uddhava about the knowledge that Krishna gave him, which is Uddhav Gita, which we see in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then how Uddhava advised Vidura to speak to Maitri Muni, and then how Maitri Muni has been asking, requesting information or asking questions to how Vidura has been asking questions to Maitri Muni, and we have come towards the end. So in the verse today, we see how Maitri Muni actually gives a solution of all things. He reaches the conclusion of everything that Vidura has asked so far. So let's read the verse. Mataji, do you want me to share the screen, or shall I just read it? I'm not sure I have sharing rights. Yeah, I do.
Sure, Mataji, you can share the screen.
Yes. So Srimad Bhagavatam 3714. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ashesha Shanklesha Samam Vitate Guna Nuvada Shavanam Murare Kimva Punashta Charana Ravinda Paragaseva Ratiratmalabdha. Translation: simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc. of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the lotus feet? Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport: two different methods for controlling the material senses are recommended in the Vedic scriptural wisdom. One of them is the process of jnana, or the path of philosophical understanding of the Supreme, Brahma, or Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The other is that of direct engagement in the transcendental loving devotional service of the Lord. Of these two most popular methods, the path of devotional service is recommended here as the best, because one on the path of devotional service does not have to wait for the attainment of the fruitive results of pious activities or for the results of knowledge. The two stages of executing devotional service are, first, the stage of practicing devotional service with our present senses under the regulations of the recognized scriptures, and second, attaining sincere attachment for serving the particles of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. The first stage is called sadhana bhakti, or devotional service for the neophyte, which is rendered under the direction of a pure devotee. And the second stage is called raga bhakti, in which the mature devotee automatically takes to the various services of the Lord out of sincere attachment. The great sage Maitreya now gives the final answer to all the questions of Vidura, and we have to, really look into this. It's the final answer that Maitreya Muni gives to Vidura. And what is that? That devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate means to mitigate all the miserable conditions of material existence. The path of knowledge, or that of mystic gymnastics, may be adopted as a means for the purpose, but unless mixed with bhakti or devotional service, they are unable to award the desired result. By practicing sadhana bhakti, one may gradually rise to the point of raga bhakti, and by performing raga bhakti in loving transcendental service, one can even control the supreme powerful Lord. Let's read the last line of this purport again, because it's just so very strong and it just defines Krishna consciousness. By practicing sadhana bhakti, one may gradually rise to the point of raga bhakti. And by performing Raga Bhakti in loving transcendental service, one can even control the supreme powerful Lord. Okay, so what is the focus of our verse today? So we are being told that, simply by chanting and hearing, so by performing bhakti, one can achieve the cessation of all miserable conditions. So that's the first point. We can get rid of all miserable conditions by performing bhakti. And then we are told of the two different types of bhakti, okay? One we are talked about, we are being told about somebody of the devotees who have attained attraction, not just for the Lord's lotus feet, but people who are attracted even by the flavor of the dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. People are able to, the true devotees are able to be attracted by that as well. So we are talking about a very specific type of devotion over here. So the first part is how can we come to all the miserable conditions in life? And the second part talks about two different kind of devotions, which the purport further talks about. The purport talks about sadhana bhakti and raga bhakti. And what is the conclusion? The conclusion is that by doing raga bhakti, one can even control the Supreme Lord. So that is what we are being talked about in this verse. And so let's look into these one by one. And please do stop me if there are any queries or questions in between, or if there is any corrections, please do correct me. So we are told, let's look into the first point. So let's start with the last point, the last point of the purport, and then look back. So the last point of the purport, Krishna says, a devotee, a true devotee can really control me. Now, we know who is the topmost devotee. The absolute topmost devotee is none other than Radharani. And I might have shared this pastime with you before, but it's one of those pastimes which I don't really tire of saying because it captures the whole mood of bhakti, of pure, true love for Krishna. And it's a pastime that Keshav Maharaj was sharing about Radhashtami. And he was talking about how during Radhashtami there was a class given by a very, very elevated devotee, and he was to give a class of 7 days leading up to Radhashtami. And so on the first day, lots of people gathered because he's a very well-known speaker, and the speaker talked about Lord Krishna and all his glories. So the second day he did the same. The third day he did the same, talked about Krishna. And people who were in the audience, they were thinking, when is he actually going to get to Radharani? Because obviously we are having a 7-day session on Radhashtami. So this is leading up to Radhashtami. So 3 days have passed. Okay, so he's probably going to start talking about Radharani from tomorrow. The fourth day comes, he talks about the glories of Krishna, his Nama, his Rupa, his Guna, his Leelas. Okay, Krishna is unlimited. Where do you start? Where do you end? The more you talk about Krishna, the more taste you find in the sweetness of Krishna. And so the fourth day went, the fifth day went, the sixth day went, the seventh day, the day of Radhashtami. That is when, everybody gathered, everyone gathered in the hall, with a bated breath that, okay, finally today, maybe Maharaj is going to talk about Radharani because he can't talk about Krishna today because it's Radhashtami. Radharani has to get priority today. And so Maharaj starts his speech and he starts talking about Krishna again. And he talks and talks and talks about Krishna. And then it was only about 15 minutes left for the end of the session. And then Maharaj says, And this Krishna who I've been talking about for 7 days, this Krishna bows his head to Radharani. And that is who Radharani is. So the Krishna who can be glorified eternally for, there's no start and finish to talking about this Krishna. This Krishna bows down to Radharani and is controlled by Radharani because he's captured by Radharani's love. He's bound by Radharani's love. And so that defines what we have been told over here in the last line of the purport, that Krishna himself declares that, someone who is a true devotee of me controls me. Krishna is control. He's the God who controls everything, but he himself is controlled by his true devotee. So keeping that in mind, let's now go back to the start of the verse. What are we talking about? Yes. So what are we being told over here in the verse? Now, we are told, let's look into this. Now, as we know, this is the concluding verse of Maitreya Muni answering all the previous questions of Vidura. Now, we are drawn attention to the fact that in Srimad Bhagavatam, we are not given a solution problem-wise. Now, in material world, in material life, we have lots of problems. And we usually tend to go to, we go to the temple, we go to with a shopping list, can Krishna, Radharani, or Prabhupada, or Gaurnitai, or, Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, Ram, Lakshman, Hanumanji, Sita, Manda, can you please, or any god, Lord Narasimhadev, I've got this problem. Okay, people do pujas, yagnas. Okay, they chant more rounds. Oh, and just for some solution to their problems. But we are told, is that what we really do devotion for? And Srimad Bhagavatam, so it does not give us a solution problem-wise that, yes, do you know what, I've got, I have lots of problems with my with my colleagues at work, and that is troubling me. Can I read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita and get a solution? Yes, because Krishna says you find the answer to everything in the Shastras. You open any page of Gita or Bhagavatam, you'll find the answer to your problems. But does it individualize your problem? No, it gives you the answer how to resolve that problem, not just for today or tomorrow, but forever after. It does not, Srimad Bhagavatam or the Shastras, they do not encourage a devotee to approach the Lord for mitigation of any individual problem. And that is the word. I was listening to a class by Satya Gaura Raja Prabhu, and he was saying, he used the word mitigation, that, we don't do devotion for mitigation of any individual problem. But Srimad Bhagavatam talks about something much more fundamental. It talks about the mitigation of all miserable conditions, not just to you and me, but in entirety, for all in creation. We know of the 3 main types of miseries that we come across in this material world: adhyatmic, miseries we give to us; adibautic, miseries we get from others; adidaivic, miseries that befall us because of from the devatas or the demigods. So Srimad Bhagavatam gives a solution to all kinds of miseries being mitigated. And that is what Maitreya Muni is trying to draw the attention of Vidura to. So it's saying that if the civilization, nowadays we see, if there is any kind of advancement primarily in technology, any kind of advancement, that is considered to be an advancement in civilization. But according to Srimad Bhagavatam, that isn't the proper method, because it's only a localized solution, a temporary solution. It's like giving a tablet for a fever or a headache, and that misery, that temporary problem is gone. So people glorify small solutions, and people who are able to, give solutions to temporary situations, people glorify them as saviors. They do not understand that there is a process, a way by which unlimited miseries can be resolved in our lives. And what is our verse? What is Maitrimani telling Vidura right at the beginning? Cessation of all miseries is only one thing. It's a very, very simple process. Guna Nuvada Shravanam Murare, the second line of our verse. Simply hearing about Krishna's various forms, Nama, Rupa, Guna, how merciful he is, his leelas, pastimes, talking about his associates, his devotees. So one of the very, very unique attributes of Krishna is that he's always surrounded by his devotees. Krishna can't, Krishna cannot really survive without his devotees. If he comes to the material world to do his leelas, he comes with his associates. We see that in Krishna Leela, whether in Dwapar Yuga, in Treta Yuga, Ram Leela, he comes with his associates. In Chaitanya Leela, he comes with his associates. So, even in Chaitanya Leela, where, he took sannyas, and because of that, he couldn't be surrounded by any women. He had the women who came in his other leelas taking the body of males. So we see Gadadhar Radharani coming as Gadadhar Pandit. We see the gopis coming as various associates, other than his eternal associates. So we always see Krishna surrounded by, when he used to go for he used to go even to graze the cows. The gopas would just stand for him. They would not go. They would stand with his cows and calves. They would just, form that big line outside Mother Yashoda's home. But they would just not go without Krishna. And then some of them would entice him, oh, Krishna, we'll play this today, we'll play that today. But Mother Yashoda is, telling Krishna, no, you have to stay today. You always go out, and then, you have to end up fighting with the demons. And Mother Yashoda is frightened, but then Krishna wants to go because he's there. He's there to, he wants to play. He's always with his associates, and he cannot resist the love of his devotees, whether it's Mother Yashoda's, whether it's the other devotees, the gopas. And so we see that, he's always surrounded by his associates. And the more we hear about this, what happens when we hear about this? What does the first line of the verse says? If we hear about Krishna more and more, Ashesha Sanklesha Samam Vidate, all the miseries will go away. All the miserable conditions will go away. That's the first thing we are told. And that is the first thing that Maitrimuni is telling Vidura, that the answer to all your questions that you have asked, yes, there are so many answers. There are philosophical answers. There are simple answers. But answers to all of that is just devotion. If we hear about Krishna, if we hear about Krishna's devotees, his pastimes, that's all we need. It's very simple. It's very simple. But we have to get that taste for hearing that. Okay. So and that's what the first part of the verse is saying. And so Prabhupada says in the purport that there are two different methods for controlling the material senses. So one of them is through jnana, or the philosophical understanding of the Supreme, that we just learn about Krishna, we read the Shastras, books, and, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, so many, especially in the Jnana Yoga section, that people can read a lot of books, that people can be very, very conversant with Shastras. I mean, as somebody came and told Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I can recite the Bhagavad Gita verse by, I know all the whole Bhagavad Gita, cover to cover, all the shlokas. And Prabhupada said, very good, fantastic. but can you just live only one verse of Bhagavad Gita? You can recite all the verses of Bhagavad Gita, but can you live? Can you tell me that you have lived just one verse of Bhagavad Gita? So it's very simple just to read and memorize, but to actually do it. And what is really doing each verse? What did Prabhupada mean by it? Or Prabhupada meant that have you really understood Krishna to be able to do your karma, do your actions in this material world the way Krishna is asking you to do it? And you will only be able to do it if you love Krishna, if you have that attachment to Krishna. There is no way that one can force you to do something, but only and only if you have true attachment to Krishna will you be able to live one verse of Bhagavad Gita and not just, memorize the verses. And so that is what Prabhupada is saying in this pulpit as well, that, people can try to understand Krishna. One path is through the process of jnana. But that jnana, unless and until that jnana is mixed with bhakti, it will not give one self-realization. It's said over and over and over again Krishna says that to Arjuna in the Gita, and Prabhupada is saying that over here again. Now, what is the other way? The other is the direct engagement of the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So just pure bhakti, just directly doing bhakti towards the Lord. And so of these two, the most popular method is the path of devotional service, and it is recommended in all the Shastras. And Srimad Bhagavatam is, it's an example of how right from the beginning, right till the end, we are talked about only this thing. Where Krishna finishes right at the end in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Leave all these philosophies, Arjun, leave all the, all these, speculations, philosophies, all that I have said. Just surrender unto me. Just surrender unto me and I'll take care of you. And what is surrender? How do we define surrender? Is that forceful surrender? No, it's surrender out of love, out of bhakti. When we genuinely want to love Krishna. I mean, if you see, even if we translate it in the material world, when we truly, truly love someone, we genuinely want to make that person happy. That becomes the priority. Everything that we do, automatically the focus goes to that person. How can we make that person happy? Because the happiness of that person is going to be the happiness of me. One derives happiness by giving happiness to the person one loves truly. And so when one performs devotion only to give love to Krishna, only to give happiness to Krishna and Radharani, that is when one gets the true taste of happiness. And that is the reason Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in this Kali Yuga. He could not understand how Radharani got so much pleasure by loving him so much. He couldn't understand. And he could see Radharani in ecstasy all the time, and he wanted to taste that. And that is what we are being reminded over and over again. Surrender unto me. So we see when Draupadi, even in Bhagavad Gita, the whole of the first chapter, we see Krishna does not talk at all. He allows Arjuna to say everything, and Arjuna gives very, very philosophical reasons as to why he cannot do the war against his own cousins. Very, very, very logical and philosophical reasons. And Krishna doesn't say everything. But it's only when coming into chapter 2, Arjuna is perplexed and he says, I don't understand anything, Krishna. You tell me now. And he surrenders to Krishna. Only then Krishna starts giving him the answers. And it happens with, even in when you take a guru, you can take up a guru, but then unless and until we surrender to our guru and want and, truly want to learn something from our guru, the guru is not going to give us answers. So Krishna as the guru of Arjuna, not as the Sakha, but now as the guru of Arjuna, starts giving him the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita only after Arjuna surrendered. But right at the end of Bhagavad Gita, what does he say? Arjuna, even if you don't understand anything, just surrender unto me. Just surrender, and just leave everything to me. We see so many examples of that. We see, how Draupadi, he was look, she couldn't, nobody would save her in that in the assembly. And then right at the end, because, her husbands couldn't save her, the elderly people in the courtroom, in the assembly wouldn't save her. And then he was clutching her sari just with one hand, trying to somehow, keep herself modestly clad. But she couldn't, and there was nobody. And so what does she do? She just leaves. She just leaves and puts her hand up and calls out Govinda. And so when we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doing this, that is just a sign of surrender. Krishna, we are surrendering to you because we can't do anything by ourselves. We are stuck in this material world. All we are doing is we are surrendering unto you, Krishna. Please help us. Only you can help us. And that is when Krishna came in the incarnation of a cloth. And we see so many examples throughout Bhagavatam. Gajendra, all devotees, how Gajendra, when he surrendered, he was saved. The Lord came down from Vaikuntha in a split second. Even before Gajendra could blink, the Lord was down there only because Gajendra surrendered unto him. And so throughout the Bhagavatam, throughout the other Shastras, we are told just how important it is to love Krishna, to perform pure devotion, not just devotion as a ritual, as a, as a tick mark against all the boxes that one has to do. So we have list of things to do every single day, and then, we just put a tick mark next to them. And as I was reading this, I was meditating and I was reflecting on my chanting practice. And I was thinking to myself, when I do my chanting, how many times do I actually really think that I'm chanting today only to give happiness to Radharani and Krishna? First of all, the mind goes everywhere. Secondly, even if we are concentrating, do we really, for as long as we chant, sit and chant, can we maintain that mood of only wanting to give pleasure and happiness to Krishna? Is the focus on Radharani or Krishna, or is the focus on me? So what we are being told here is that when we perform a devotional service, shift that focus from ourselves to Radharani and Krishna, because the focus is to give them happiness. And when they are happy, automatically we become happy. Because Radharani and Krishna, they are the happiness by seeing us happy. When they see us happy, they become the happiest. So we don't have to really worry about, our happiness. All we have to worry about is how can we make them happy. But are we able to do that? And I can only speak for myself. No, I'm not able to. I have to really, really practice how to do this. And that is what we are being told, reminded over here again in this part. But Prabhupada reminds us again that, just by jnana, it's not possible. Only by bhakti, a little bit of bhakti, no, it's not possible. It is only through pure bhakti that we can actually please the lordships. In the Padma Purana, Lord Shiva tells Parvati, Mother Parvati, the same thing. And he tells Mother Parvati that, my dear Parvati, and this is from the Nectar of Devotion by Rupa Goswami, and he quotes from the Padma Purana, and he says that Lord Shiva tells Mother Parvati, my dear Parvati, there are different methods of worship, And out of all such methods, the worship of the Supreme Person is considered to be the highest. But even higher than the worship of the Lord is the worship of the Lord's devotees. That is exactly what we are being told. Worship of the Supreme Person is the highest. Worship of the Lord is highest. Yes, in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas, we see how people who are not really ready to surrender to Krishna and Radharani, they do worship lots of other gods. But remembering all the other gods, they are also great devotees of Krishna. And so all offerings that are given in the yagnas, even to the demigods first offer that to Krishna. And then they accept it as prasad from Krishna. And so the people who worship the demigod, if they do that in the proper way, following the proper Vedic injunctions, the demigods will definitely take them towards bhakti, towards the Supreme Lord, to Krishna. And so Lord Shiva is saying that so people worship Lord Shiva to get a good wife, to get a good husband, or for material things. Ravan, he was a great, great devotee of Lord Shiva. And yet, as a part incarnation of Lord Shiva, Hanuman, who's an incarnation of the Rudra form of Shiva, Hanuman was the reason for the end of Ravana. So you can be a great devotee, Hiranyakashipu, a great devotee of Lord Brahma, but if you're against the Supreme Lord, against Krishna, the great devotees you are, if you're worshipping Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, who are great devotees themselves, they will not side with you. Because the ultimate reason, the cause of all causes, is the Supreme Lord. And he is the source of all our happiness. And happiness is exactly what we want. We don't want anything else. Happiness is the only thing why we exist. We do everything for our own happiness. But what we have in this material world is an absence of distress. That is what we define as happiness. We have no idea what true happiness is, because true happiness does not exist in the material world. That Sat Chit Ananda, which is the definition of our soul. Why? Because that is what Krishna is made up of, Sat Chit Ananda, and we are all part and parcel of Krishna. So our souls are Sat Chit Ananda as well, but that Ananda is completely absent in this material world. That Ananda is only possible when we are one with Krishna, when we reach the spiritual stage. What we have now is just an absence of distress. And that period where there is an absence of distress, we in our, conditioned, in our conditioning, we try to define that as happiness. And so Lord Shiva is telling Mother Parvati that the highest method of worship is to worship the Lord. But even higher than that is worshipping the Lord's devotees, what Prabhupada says to us in the purport towards the end. And that is where we come to the second point of the purport. So Maitri Rishi now talks about how one should perform devotion. And by trying to talk about that, he gives the examples of two types of devotees. So he talks about people who not only serve the Lord, but as the verse says, but it comes to a stage of devotion where they are attracted not just by the Lord or by the lotus feet of the Lord, not even by the dust on the lotus feet of the Lord, but on the flavor, just thinking about the flavor of that dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. That is how great their attachment is to Krishna. We've all heard about, the very, very famous and very popular pastime of how Narad Muni wanted to get the dust of the Lord, because the Lord in Dwarka was very ill one of the days and had a headache, and wanted to show Narad Muni what the meaning of true devotion is, and said, if you can bring me the dust from the feet of any of my devotees, and how Narad Muni goes to all the devotees, and nobody, including Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the great sages, the Saptarishis, everybody, nobody wants to give them the dust of their feet, because they are scared that how can, we are nobodies, and how can we give the dust of our feet to the Lord, for the Lord to put that on his head? That is a sacrilege. We wouldn't even get place in hell. We can't do that. And so Narad Muni comes back to the Lord and says, it's such a simple thing. It's only the dust of someone's feet, but nobody's ready to give that. And the Lord says, but have you gone everywhere? Have you gone to Vrindavan? And Narad Muni says, oh, but what would they know? They are very simpleton, simple people over there. And Krishna says, just go over there and say this to them. And Krishna and Narad Muni goes there. And he talks to he was in speaking, and the gopis come rushing to him, led by Radharani. How is Krishna? How is Krishna? They want to know, because they know Narad Muni always is with the Lord and always can see the Lord. And Narad Muni starts talking about how Krishna is, he has a headache. And even before he could complete the whole sentence, all the gopis, they were tearing pieces of cloth from their clothes and then, gathering dust from under their feet and giving that to Narada and saying, why are you wasting your time talking to us so much? Just rush back to Krishna and give this dust to him. And Narad Muni was asking them, are you all not afraid that you're doing an offense by giving the dust from your feet to Krishna to put that on his head? And the gopis say that, no, we are not afraid, because it doesn't matter to us what happens to us. To us, what matters is Krishna okay? Is Krishna happy? That is what is going to make us happy. It does not matter. So we don't come as a priority. It's Krishna who's the priority. So that is true devotion. When we understand the fact that every single thing that we have over here in this, all that Krishna has given us in this material world, everything is because of the mercy of Krishna. And when we accept that in gratitude, we internalize that, we understand the fact that, our happiness lies in making Krishna happy. Because, why wouldn't we want to make a person happy who has given us everything? A person, if we take one step towards him, will come 10 steps towards us. A person who's waiting. Krishna was telling Uddhava, you walk. Krishna told, one day they were walking together, because Uddhava was a great friend of Krishna and always used to be with Krishna. And Krishna was telling Uddhava, you walk in front of me. I'm going to walk behind you. And Uddhava said, why? We are talking together. Come, you should stand, let's walk together. And Krishna tells Uddhava, no, Uddhava, I want to get that dust when you walk in front of me, that dust that I'm going to pray to the god of wind, to the Pavan, god of wind, just so that, as you're walking, just so that he can blow the wind very strongly, and some of that dust from under your feet comes to me, because you're a true devotee. And that is how Krishna is humbled by true devotion, and why he's so much controlled by true devotion. It's Damodar month. In that month, we greatly remember about how Krishna is tied by that rope of love. And again, Amarendra Prabhu was saying the other day, remember the last verse of the Damodar Ashtakam. Yes, we talk about Damodar, we think about 4-year-old Krishna, but think about the last 2 lines of the Damodar Ashtakam. What does it highlight? Can anyone remember the last 2 lines of Damodar Ashtakam? Yes, Mataji. It mentions Radharani. Yes.
Namo Radhikayai Tvadiya Priyayai Namo Anantaleelaya Devaya Tubhyam.
Thank you so
Hare
much, Mataji.
Krishna.
Exactly. And Amarendra was Prabhu was saying, mentioning this the other day. Does anyone? Yes, we pay a lot of attention to praying to that little Damodar, but what does it actually tell us as well? See how cleverly we have been mentioned about the greatest devotee of Krishna right at the end of the Ashtakam, and that's the key to it. We have to love Krishna as Radharani. We can never do that. Nobody can, not impossible to love. Radharani is the epitome. Even Krishna can't do that, So we can't. But this is where we learn from the devotees. And that is what Prabhupada is saying when he talks about the two types of devotions. And he says there are two types of devotees. One who are who does sadhana bhakti, and the other is Rupa Nuga Bhakti. Now, Rupa Goswami, in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he has divided bhakti into three categories: sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and then ultimately Krishna prema. So, in our verse today, Prabhupada has, or the verse today mentions primarily about sadhana bhakti. Now, sadhana bhakti can be divided into two types: Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. So it gets tiny, slightly technical over here, but it's Sadhana Bhakti. And so sadhana, when we are doing Sambandha, Abhidaya Prayojana, we talked about, what is Sambandha? Trying to re-establish our relationship with Krishna. What is Prayojana? Our sadhana. How can we re-establish that relationship with Krishna? And what is prayojana? Why are we doing this sadhana? To get the ultimate goal of Krishna Prem. That is the abhidaya. So we are now in the middle stage. We are talking about sadhana. So sadhana, for the sake of simplicity, it has been mentioned as sadhana bhakti, but sadhana bhakti itself can be divided into Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. So, Vaidhi Bhakti, as described by Rupa Goswami, is very, very powerful. It's just performing devotional activities, and there are many, many different ways. But the five most powerful ways could be as given by Rupa Goswami is associating with saintly people, singing and chanting the Lord's name, kirtana, listening to the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam, residing in a holy place of Mathura, Vrindavan, any holy place, and lastly, serving the deities with reverence. So any little contact of any of these can take one from sadhana to the next stage of bhava. And then we see Prahlad Maharaj, and also in the Shastra, we talk about the the 9 types of devotion of Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, and Atmanivedanam. So any of these ways can take us can be sadhana, or Vaidhi Bhakti of sadhana. And the second type of sadhana bhakti is Raganuga Bhakti, which means to follow the mood and attachment of the Lord's eternal associates. So say we think about the Goswamis, they are eternal associates of the Lord, and they are completely engrossed in the Lord. So their attachment, their sadhana is automatic, it's spontaneous. So whereas Vaidhi Bhakti depends on the injunctions of the scriptures, what are the do's and what are the don'ts, and there has to be a proper practice, something needs to be followed, and then we are doing sadhana. We have to remember the do's and the don'ts sometimes, and we say, okay, if how many as many rounds of japa we have to do that every day, because I know that's good for me, that is going to help us in my devotion. So we do that automatically. But what about Haridas Thakur? He was chanting all the time because he was doing that spontaneously. So when love for Krishna is spontaneous, that is what Raganuga Bhakti is. And Raganuga Bhakti is basically following the or doing devotion in the mood of the Ragatmikas. The Ragatmikas are the true eternal associates of the Lord, the true devotees of the Lord who love Lord spontaneously, serve Lord spontaneously. And any person who wants to follow the mood of the Ragatmikas, these eternal associates, they are called the Raganuga Bhaktas. So following the mood of the Ragatmikas, the true eternal associates, true devotees of the Lord, following their mood of bhakti, because we cannot reach the Ragatmikas, we cannot, we cannot be, we are just neophytes. I mean, I can speak for myself. We are just starting our devotion. So right now, we are very much in that first stage, the Vaidhi Bhakti. We are having to do some practices. However, we can try to get to the mood of Raganuga. The Raganuga mood is where people are able to practice devotion in the mood of the Ragatmikas. Who are the Ragatmikas? They are the true lovers of Krishna, the true associates of Krishna, where devotion becomes very, very spontaneous. And the example given is that of a baby being taken care of by a maid who is being paid. So that maid takes care of the baby, and she's doing that out of duty because she has to do it. She does that properly, but she does that out of duty. Whereas if the baby is taken care of by a mother, that is Raganuga Bhakti, because that is not based on any scriptural injunctions or rules and regulations. Rules and regulations are only meant for those who do not have a natural inclination for devotion. People are so covered by Maya that that natural inclination or remembrance of Krishna has gone. So that is the reason we have to follow these rules and regulations, the 4 regulative principles, the Vedic injunctions. We have to do that. And that is Vaidhi, that's sadhana bhakti as mentioned, but we are doing it. People do it. And that is more of a role, or rather more of a duty, as opposed to a natural, spontaneous love that a mother shows when taking care of a baby. So sadhana bhakti, as is being described here, is devotional service performed according to scriptural rules and regulations, whereas raga bhakti or raganuga bhakti is much higher. It's the spontaneous form of devotion which is driven by natural love and natural attachment to God. So we cannot really, ignore sadhana bhakti, because sadhana bhakti is the necessary preparatory stage to be able to reach raga bhakti. If we don't do that, earlier, I know further, right at the beginning, I would hardly be able to do 5 minutes of japa, but then your taste increases. So sadhana, we need that sadhana to be able to reach raga bhakti. And or Vaidhi Bhakti to reach Raga Bhakti. So whereas in Vaidhi Bhakti, the motivation is obligation rather than complete internal affection, and the purpose is to increase that attachment to Krishna, to build on that, the attachment of Krishna, where Raganuga Bhakti is more natural, it's more spontaneous, and it's full of deep affection for the Lord. And it involves following the mood of God's eternal associates, who are known as Ragatmikas. And the motivation in Raganuga Bhakti is very simple. It's just driven by spontaneous longing for Krishna, attachment to Krishna, and the ultimate giving happiness to Krishna, the desire to please Krishna. That is the only motivation. So the purpose of Raganuga Bhakti is only to serve God out of pure love. It is independent of any outward rules. The only intention, purpose is to serve God out of pure love. And it is achieved only after successful practice of sadhana bhakti. And that is why we are told that, don't leave your sadhana, because it's only your sadhana that will take you to your, it will make you progress. Because if we leave it, then we go back to being completely overcome by Maya. So I understand there's only 1 minute. I don't think I can complete everything. So I'll go right to conclusion. So there are quite a few analogies given over here. So I'll go right to conclusion. Okay, just very, very quickly. So the mature stage of sadhana bhakti is called bhava bhakti. So bhava is the dawn of prema, Krishna prema. It's just that stage just before Krishna prema. And then ultimately, the highest stage is prema bhakti, and it occurs when bhava becomes intensified and it becomes condensed. So that is prema bhakti. So, but in our verse, we are primarily being talked about sadhana bhakti or vaidhi bhakti and raganuga bhakti. One is following the Vedic injunctions, doing it more as a duty. The other is more spontaneous attachment. And what we are being told in this verse today, the conclusion is that Krishna is saying that one should not just develop an attitude of just doing sadhana bhakti, because sometimes devotees immaturely or prematurely, sometimes they want to drop those regulative principles, and they think that they can attain the higher realms of raga bhakti. But actually, those principles of sadhana bhakti, they are meant to purify us stage by stage and take us towards raga bhakti. And once that is reached, one will not only be able to attach themselves to Krishna's lotus feet, leave apart Krishna's lotus feet, as we are being told, just the flavor of the dust of Krishna's lotus feet is going to attract all those who are in Raganuga Bhakti. So it's not based on any gross material give and take of love with Krishna. There is that real sense of wanting to give happiness, like the gopis, like the true devotees of the Lord. And ultimately, that is all we want. Because right now, we are being reminded of what Maitri Muni has mentioned to Vidura all along. Look, especially in the last verse, he's mentioned right now in the material world, people are being attracted by hatred, by raga and dvesha so much. So people are being the mind is brainwashed by so much of artificial things, and that takes us away from Krishna. And there was you will have talked about raga and dvesha in the last verse, so I'm not going into that. But one will not be able to attach themselves unless and until one first sticks to sadhana, and then only after that one can reach that raganuga, that spontaneous love for Krishna. And what happens then? We come to that last line of our purport again. Once we have that spontaneous love for Krishna, Krishna himself is controlled by us. Krishna says it clearly that I am aham bhakta paradin. I am controlled by my devotees, and that is only and only possible, and that is the final conclusion being given by Maitri Muni to Vidura over here. First of all, devotion is the only way to get rid of all the miseries, and secondly, not just any devotion, but get to that stage where your devotion is spontaneous attachment to Krishna, spontaneously wanting to love Krishna and give him happiness. That is the attachment. That is the final stage where we want to give. And once we reach that, then it will be, then it's then it will take us to Bhava and ultimately Krishna Prema. And that is what we are being reminded of in this verse. So Hare Krishna, apologies, I've gone over time. So apologies about that. If there are any corrections, please do correct me.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for today's session. I lost track of time as well. Thank you for this wonderful session. I open it up to any questions or comments. Romni Mataji, you would like to make a comment?
Yeah, it's not, it's just a comment. Panchali, you are just so amazing. Honestly, you've got so much knowledge to share. And really, really appreciate that you're sharing all of this knowledge, because without people like yourself, we wouldn't have anything. We just wouldn't have that, the love for Krishna. We wouldn't know how to get there. It's just like a sat nav. We're tuning into a sat nav here, and you're guiding us to the right path, the right road. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. It's nothing to do with me. I learned from my Guruji. I learned from other devotees like Satya Gaura Raja Prabhuji. His class, I learned a lot from him, what I mentioned today. So nothing, mind, Mataji.
Yeah.
All the mercy of my Gurujis and other devotees and Radharani Krishna.
I'm very blessed to know you, Panchali. Very blessed.
Yeah, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you.
We all echo the same sentiments. Thank you so much, Romni Mataji.
Yeah.
Before we close down or go to our next question, I'd like to welcome Vidisha Mataji to this group. She has joined for the first time. So welcome to this group, Mataji. And we meet every day at the same time on the same link. So if you have the time and bandwidth, kindly join us. We do one text every day and we stick to our times. We start dot on time and end on time. Let us all unmute and chant 3 Haribols to welcome Vidisha Mataji. Haribol,
Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Vidisha Mataji was here last week as well, I think.
Yeah, she was there
I
last
wasn't
week.
there from.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
We did not welcome her.
Yes, thank you, Kritika Mataji. Thank you, Vidisha Mataji and Ramni Mataji.
Thank you.
Dorin Mataji, Gayatri Mataji, Eastern Prabhu, Dennis Prabhu. Thank you.
Can I request Eastern Prabhu, are you able to end today's session? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for the wonderful lesson today. It was so informative and so enlightening, and we learned some good stuff today. With that, I would love to invite every one of us to unmute and chant one round of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the glorification of our great Panchali Kar Mataji for the wonderful class.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya
Patitanam
Pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Har Grace Panchali Kar Mataji ki jai.
Thank you, everybody.
Rejoice with the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Matajis and Prabhujis. Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.